I'm using a poison tail jig model PTJ-3-AFM. And you can see here there's a little piece of tape. That little piece of tape there kind of gives it a little bit of a gap. And you can see there's one side that's open on that figure 8 link. You want to take that and put it on your hook like this. So you want that on the hook like that. Okay, then you just want to kind of close this up. Just want to kind of close that up. Alright, so I got two of them made there. We'll close this up. You don't have to close it, but I think it pours better. So we're going to close it. So what you got is something that looks like that. Okay. And what I had done was I had laid an S-link in place just like this, and I'll close it up the first time, and then I'll slide the handle off of the edge of a table or whatever. I'll take a block of wood and I'll put the block of wood on there and just hit it real hard, and it usually will seat itself with smaller changes like that. So you can see it lays right in where the eye would lay for the actual spinnerbait hook. For a Mustad 917 68, and see that would lay in there like this, just like that. But what I had done is modified it, so I just take an S-link and a spinnerbait hook, and I replaced it with that to make my chatterbait. So what you do is just close this up, and I like to pour it pretty quick. It seems to work better if you pour it quick. So if I get a little messy, that one probably did not fill. Okay, it did fill. We're good. So you can see you're going to have a little cleanup when you're done around the so what I do is I take where the weed guard would go on this mold, twist that off, just eliminate that. You can get rid of, I usually wait till this cools a little bit because you can still bend them a little bit if you're not careful. So I make sure the eye and the hook are pretty straight at this point, and everything looks good on this one. So you see you got a little cleanup here on the collar. I usually just take a file to it and clean it up. And that's pretty much how you make them. I mean, it's really simple. That's how I pour my heads. I'll do one more. And hopefully, you know, you're going to get some bad ones. I just melt it off and just re-pour it again if I get a bad pour. That was a good one. See how it came out the bottom? I had more cleanup on this one than the other one. No, actually it came out even better. So I modify almost all my molds that way. Like this one, I can use it as a jig if I want to. I can use it, I can even make spinner baits out of this mold, or I can use it for my chatterbaits. So there we go, we got two of them poured. So after we get our jigs all poured, we're going to have some flashing on them. You know, it's going to, there's usually some flashing or some, this one's actually really good, but like around the collar usually you'll have some areas that are kind of bad. This one's in good shape. This one you can see some around the collar right in there and stuff. I'll just take the file and clean that up. You always have a little bit of area underneath, and where the weed guard was back here, I'll have some area to clean up, so I just take a file and I'll just take it and kind of go over that area a little bit. Just kind of clean it up, smooth it up. The bottom there I'll smooth up. Then you have to open up the eye. Remember where we're going to put the blade on. If you got a lot of garbage inside, or lead I should say, I usually kind of take a knife and kind of clean that out first. And then I'll come back and I'll open it up. Open it up just enough to get the blade in there. I don't want to really distort that shape. So I got something that looks pretty much like that. That's pretty much all we want. And then your blades, this one's a recycled blade. And what I mean by that is, if I didn't like the way the powder paint went on it, it was too thick or it clumped up someplace, I just take those blades and throw them in some acetone, a little jar of acetone, leave them sitting there for an hour or so, and it will clean right up. You can basically get that right off and redo your blade. That way you're not wasting them. That one you can see is a kind of a rounded, I don't know what shape it would be, kind of an oval shape. I really like those blades. The other style would be the coffin style blade. And the way I bend them, I just take a pair of like heavy duty pliers, like wire pliers or whatever they call them. Anyway, I'll take it where the edges, both edges come to the edge of the blade, and that's usually where I do my bend. On an original chatterbait, it would come back almost to that point on the back. So that one I actually bent it kind of far. But, so you can see I just put a bend in there. How much you bend it, or you can leave them straight. You can come back further. All that's up to you. You know, you'll get different actions and different movement out of them. So that's something you can just play with. And the reason we open them up is so after we get them all powder painted, we can just slide that on. We'll close that up and we'll have it finished. So now we're going to go to the powder paint aspect of this whole thing. And I'm using an alcohol lamp. You could use a heat gun if you want. The hardest part is actually painting the blades. And what I do is I find if I heat the back, mostly the back of the blade, alright, just like that, and then just wave it over the other side, wave it over the flat part, and just shake it as I go in, I get a lot nicer blade. So you can see there, that's a good clean blade. If you see it kind of flat, that's almost better because it means you got very little paint on there. And I'll just kind of wave it a couple times over that. That's a good blade there. That one came out really good. Nice thin coating on it. That's just perfect. That's what you want. Comes to the heads, I used to just stick them in just like this, you know, powder paint them, obviously with the eye open, and then I'd clean off the eye real good with a pocket knife or a small, in this case a carving knife. Clean it off. You could use an X-Acto, but I found now if I just put a little piece of foil on it first, when I powder paint it, after I'm done, I can just take that foil off and boom, I don't have to worry about cleaning it off anymore. Drop it down in there. I don't have a lot of heat on my alcohol lamp. My wick's getting bad there. So that's pretty much it. In a second here I can pull that foil off and I'll have a nice clean eye. But that's all we have to do for painting wise. I'm going to hang this up so it cools off. I'll do one more. What I'll do is if I'm doing blades, I'll shake my jar up every couple blades. I'll put the lid on and shake it up and get it real fluffy and powdery. On the jig heads themselves, I'll do it every, probably 2 to 3 of them. You want it real fluffy, especially for your blades. If you don't have it fluffy for your blades, it will cake on there and get nasty. Ideally, a fluid bed would be perfect. I'm just too lazy to buy one. So there's the other one. Looks good. I'm happy with that. So then I can come back, take my jigs that I just poured, and pull out that oil, maybe. Take that oil out there. Now you can see we don't have any paint on there, and if we do have a little paint, like right down at the bottom, I'll scrape that off now, because that will interfere with the action of the blade. I'm gonna warn you right now, if you don't get all that off, it will affect the action of the blade and how it runs. So I just make sure I get most of that off. That one looks pretty good to me now. I'm happy with that. So there you go. That's your jigs made. So what I'll do is I will put them in a toaster oven. I have a toaster oven. You can use a regular oven. And I'll bake them for about 10 minutes at 350. I'll hang the blades on like a paper clip and hang them in my oven. And I'll bake them for 350 for 10 minutes. And that paint is so durable. So now we're gonna slide our blades on. Just hook it over there, over the eye. Take yourself a pair of pliers, and you don't want to squeeze it down real tight, just enough to close it. So all I did is closed it up. So now you can see, so it can swing and move around real free. That's what you want. And then I take a number 2 dual lock snap. This is actually a big 2. Normally they're smaller than that. There is one little trick when you're doing this, putting the dual lock snap on, that I'm pretty picky about. So I want to make sure that this part here is on the bottom, and what I mean by that is clips closed. I want that at the bottom. Hopefully you can see that all right. I want that at the bottom, because if it's at the top, a lot of times it will interfere with the blade. I made a bunch of them and I was having issues with them, and I realized once I turned that dual lock snap around, I didn't have the issue anymore with it interfering. And then skirts, I mean, you can make them whatever colors you want. There we go. Last thing I do is just glue on some eyes and we're good to go. So when I'm all done, it will look something like this one. You can get fancy, really fancy if you want. Like this one here is, this one I painted it with the airbrush. I kind of made it look like a bluegill. Got a little fancier. I don't think the fish really care at all, but that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the one thing I failed to mention too was you can use any spinnerbait hook you want. I like a short shank spinnerbait hook. I do not like a real long one on my chatterbaits, so I use the shortest shank spinnerbait hook I can find. Strikes your fancy. I did find if you try to use a trailer hook, a lot of the trailer hooks, because they have a large ring die, they won't fit in the mold unless you're pouring really big heads. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I guess if you have any questions, just leave a comment section and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.